It begins with a quiet morning in a small Filipino village. The kind of morning where the sun rises, slowly and gently over the mountains, and the breeze carries the scent of bamboo and warm soil. At the far end of this village, in a small wooden house built long before anyone could remember, lived a man who had already lived almost a century. His name was Lolo Andres, 98 years old. A veteran, a father, a grandfather, a keeper of memories that stretched back to a world that no longer existed. For most people, 98 years is an unimaginable stretch of time. But for Lolo Andres, those years were not just numbers. They were people he remembered, faces he loved, battles he survived, villages he walked through barefoot, and moments of triumph and heartbreak that shaped everything he was. He had lived through war, through the rebuilding of a nation, through the changing of generations. And now at 98, his world had become much smaller, yet much more precious. His days were slow, peaceful, and filled with the soft laughter of his great source of joy, his 4-year-old granddaughter, Amara. Amara was new to life in every sense. Her world was made of crayons and giggles, tiny footsteps and curious questions. And although she was young, she understood something important. Her great-grandfather was different. Not in a sad way, not in a distant way, but in a magical way, like he carried stories in his eyes. Like his voice held the power to take her to worlds she had never seen. She loved sitting beside him, holding his wrinkled hand, tracing the lines that looked like rivers carved by time, wondering what each line meant. Every afternoon when Amara finished playing outside, she would sit on the wooden floor next to him and ask Lolo, "Tell me again when you were young." And so he would begin. He would describe the village as it looked before the war, where kids ran barefoot along rice fields, where wooden carts filled the roads, and where laughter echoed across the valleys. He would tell her about his mother, who cooked rice over firewood, his father who woke at dawn to work in the fields, his siblings, his neighbors, and the endless nights when stars covered the sky like lanterns of heaven. Then he would talk about the years that followed, the years that tested his courage, when the world seemed to turn upside down. Amara did not understand war. Not really. She didn't understand the depth of the fear he once felt, the weight of the sacrifices he made, or how close the world had come to falling apart. But she understood something else, that her Lolo was strong, and because she believed it with the purest heart, she made him feel strong too, even at 98. But what many people didn't know, what even Amara didn't know, was that despite his gentle smile, Lolo Andres had been feeling something heavy inside his heart. Not sadness, not pain, but a quiet ache that came from living so long. He had watched many people leave. He had watched his friends grow old and pass, watched his children grow into adults, watched the world change around him until nothing looked the same. And there were moments when he wondered if time had forgotten, that he was still here breathing, watching, remembering. Then came the day that changed everything. It happened when Amara was playing a small, wooden ukulele her father had bought her. She strummed it clumsily, the strings making soft, imperfect sounds, but her voice, her tiny voice, was pure like sunlight, like morning air and without thinking. She started to sing. Lolo Andres had heard many voices in his lifetime, but nothing struck him like the sweetness of that sound. It awakened something in him, a memory, a warmth, a spark that he hadn't felt in many years. And in that moment, he realized something beautiful, that although much of his world had faded, there were still parts of life that could bloom again. From that day, music became their shared language. Some afternoons, Lolo Andres would hum the songs he remembered from his youth, and Amara would try to follow along, her small voice trying to match his trembling. One other times, she would sing songs she learned from her parents. New songs, modern songs, and he would simply close his eyes and listen, letting her voice carry him like a gentle wave. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Amara's parents told the family about an upcoming community talent event. "It's just for fun," her father said. "People perform, families gather. Kids do little shows." Amara's eyes lit up. "Can I sing, Mama?" Her mother smiled, of course. "If you want, then..." Amara turned to her great-grandfather and said something no one expected. "Lolo, will you sing with me?" Everyone froze. Everyone knew how old he was, how fragile he had become, how difficult it was for him to stand for long periods. But in that moment, when the little girl looked up at him with those bright, hopeful eyes, something extraordinary happened. He said yes, and he meant it. From that day on, their afternoons changed. They practiced together not because they wanted to win anything, not because they wanted applause, but because it gave them something to look forward to. For Amara, it was excitement. For Lolo Andres, it was purpose. As they practiced, the family watched something beautiful unfold. With every note Amara sang, Lolo's voice grew steadier. With every soft encouragement he gave her, she grew more confident. And with every passing day, the bond between them deepened, weaving together the past and the future in a way that felt like destiny. On the day of the event, the whole community gathered. Colorful banners hung across the plaza. Children ran around parents' prepared food, and elders sat in rows waving to people they'd known for decades. When Amara's name was called, everyone smiled, everyone loved her. But when they said, "She will be joined by her 98-year-old great-grandfather," the crowd gasped. No one expected it. No one imagined he would take the stage. But there he was holding Amara's hand, as they walked forward, step by careful step. The audience fell silent. Some covered their mouths in surprise. Others already felt tears prick their eyes because in that moment, it wasn't just a performance. It was history walking beside youth. It was memory hand in hand with innocence. As they reached the center of the stage, Amara stood close to him, her hand still wrapped around his. She whispered, "I'm not scared, Lolo." He smiled softly and whispered back, "Me neither, Apple." The music began soft. Gentle, familiar, Amara started to sing first. Her little voice filled the air like a warm breeze. The audience went completely quiet, mesmerized by her innocence. Then after a few lines, Lolo Andres joined in. His voice was old, trembling, uneven, but it carried something far deeper than perfection. It carried experience, it carried survival. It carried love, the combination of their voices. One new to life, one nearing its end. Created something the crowd had never heard before. It wasn't just a duet, it was a story. A story sung across generations. People began to cry, not because the song was sad, but because it was honest. Because it reminded them of their own grandparents, their own children, their own memories of people they loved. It reminded them that time moves fast, that loved ones grow old, that moments like these are rare, fragile and precious. Near the end of the song, something happened that no one expected. Lolo Andres's voice cracked, not from age, but from emotion. And Amara, without hesitation, squeezed his hand tighter and continued singing for the both of them, carrying him with her soft, pure strength. It was as if she was telling him, "I'm here. I'll carry you just like you carried me." By the time the final note faded, the entire audience was standing. Some clapped, some cried openly. Some bowed their heads overwhelmed. And as confetti began to fall gently from above, just for fun, just for celebration. Lolo Andres looked around with tears in his eyes. Not tears of weakness, tears of gratitude. Because in that moment he felt alive in a way he hadn't in decades. He felt seen. He felt remembered. He felt connected to his family, to his past, to his future. After the performance, people surrounded them, thanking him, hugging him, telling him how much it meant to witness something so pure. But for Lolo Andres, the true moment happened when Amara hugged his waist and whispered, "I'm proud of you, Lolo." No medal he had ever received, no recognition from the past, no ceremony or parade compared to that simple sentence. Over the next few days, their performance spread across the community. People talked about it everywhere, in markets, churches, jeepneys, and small stores. Some said it was the most emotional moment they had seen in years. Others said it reminded them of their own grandparents, and many said it gave them hope. But for the family, something even more meaningful occurred. Lolo Andres became more active, more talkative, more joyful. It was as if the performance awakened a part of him that time had put to sleep. He started humming songs even when he wasn't practicing. He laughed more, he smiled more. And every morning he waited eagerly for Amara to run to him, so they could spend the day together. One afternoon, Amara asked him, "Lolo, why do you like singing with me?" He thought for a moment, then said, "Because when I sing with you, I feel like I'm young again and old at the same time. I feel like I'm all the years I've lived and all the years you will live. I feel like our history is together." Those words stayed with her years later when she grew older, when she started to understand what war meant, what sacrifice meant, what family meant. She would remember that sentence over and over, and she would understand why that performance mattered so much. It wasn't about music, it wasn't about applause. It was about connection. It was about bridging generations. It was about preserving memories that otherwise would fade away in the months that followed. The bond between them grew even stronger. People often said that Amara gave him strength, but the truth was he gave her something too. He gave her wisdom, he gave her kindness. He gave her the grounding that only elders can provide. He taught her to listen, to slow down, to appreciate the world beyond screens and noise. And he taught her, without saying it directly, that love is the most powerful legacy one can leave behind. One evening, as they sat outside watching the sunset, Amara climbed onto his lap, something she had been doing since she could walk, and asked, "Lolo, will you sing with me forever?" He smiled, tears gathering in his eyes. "As long as my voice can still whisper, I will sing with you, and when I can't whisper anymore, you will still hear me in your heart." That was the kind of love they shared, deep, pure, unbreakable. And that is why their story touched so many people. Because it wasn't just a performance. It wasn't just a moment on stage. It was history. His history shared with the next generation. It was a reminder that our elders carry stories we should never forget. It was proof that even at 98, life can still give us new memories, new joys, new reasons to smile. And it showed that sometimes the smallest hands can heal the oldest hearts. Their performance became a symbol of unity between past and present, a symbol of love that crosses generations, a symbol of how powerful it is when we let our elders be seen, heard, and cherished. And Amara, though only 4 years old at the time, would grow up always carrying the memory of standing on that stage with him, holding his trembling hand, singing their hearts out while the world listened. She would grow up knowing that she had given him something precious. And she would grow up knowing that he had given her something even greater, his history Their duet wasn't just music. It was their story. It was their history. It was love passed down like a song sung softly, carried gently, remembered forever.